Okay, so now we're going to, I know we don't get much time in class, so I'm going to work some problems. We did 2 problems during our guided practice section of our instruction on Monday, and you all received a front and back paper with both this worksheet, worksheet 2.1, where you're dividing a decimal by a whole number, and also this worksheet, worksheet 2.2. I'm going to work some additional problems because with your partner you should have worked 1 and 6 before showing me your work. So I'm going to not work 1 and 6. I'm going to pick maybe 2, maybe 3 questions from each to work with you in this video. The first one I'm going to work with you is 2. We did 1 and 6 in class, so I'm going to do 2 with you now. Going to try to write a little smaller to save paper. So for number 2, we have a dividend of 24 being divided by the divisor of 120, which means I rewrite that dividend under the house, divisor on the outside. Now looking at this problem, you should already see that you cannot make groups of 120 out of only 24, whatever that 24 represents. So what you have to do is place your decimal and add a 0 in order to make this 24 a number that can actually be divided into 120. The rules of division with decimals remains the same. You cannot have a divisor with the decimal, which we do not. Our dividend does have a decimal, which we place there to make it possible to divide by groups of 120. So now if I'm looking at this and I'm dividing like normal, I need to first say to myself, I know I'm dividing by like normal, but I need to place my decimal in the quotient area to make sure I know where to place the decimal. So we know that 2 cannot be divided by 120, so it's a 0 above the 2. We know that 24 cannot be divided into 120, so don't know what that is. So we place a 0 above the 4. Now we're going to, since we're dividing by normal, we're looking at this as 240 divided by 120. Well, I know 120 plus 120 is 240, or 120 times 2, because we're right back at our steps of DMSB. I can divide 240 by 120 twice. So now I multiply. 2 times 120 is 240. Now I'm at subtract. 240 minus 240 is 0. There's nothing to bring down. So my answer is a quotient of 2/10. If you want to check your work, which I recommend you do, we know division is simply the opposite of multiplication. So 24 divided by 120 equals the quotient of 2/10. But also you can look at it like this. 2 times, or excuse me, 2/10 times 120. I'm just going backwards because it's the opposite, but I'm realizing that I'm taking the quotient and multiplying it by the divisor to get the dividend. So 2/10 times 120. Well, I'm going to do this in standard algorithm because that's what we're learning. We know with multiplication we multiply like normal, but you have to be mindful of the you don't have to align it, but you have to be mindful how many places or how many digits are behind the decimal, which I'll keep that in mind. I have 1. So 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And now I need to place my decimal. No decimal here, 1 digit behind the decimal. So my answer, or my product, needs to also have 1 digit. Well, guess what? It checks out as correct because I get my dividend back of 24. So 2/10 is the correct answer. That's number 2. Let's now look at, trying to save paper, readjusting the camera, give me 1 second. Now let's look at, 5. Let me see. Yeah, let's look at 5. With 5, we have dividend of 4 5/10 being divided by 4. I will set that up with my dividend under the house. Divisor of 4 outside the house. We're dividing like normal. Our divisor does not have a decimal, so I don't need to move or multiply both dividend and divisor by anything. I do need to, however, place my decimal so I know where it will be in my quotient, directly above where the decimal is. So now I have 4 divided by 4. Well, I know 4 can go into 4 one time. Let me put my steps out here. So I've divided. Now it's time to multiply. Well, 1 times 4 is 4. Now I'm at subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. Now I'm at the B, bring down. So I bring down my 5. Now we repeat. So we're back at dividing. And if you notice, I did not bring down the decimal. It does not matter when I'm completing my long division problem. What matters is that you place your decimal directly above where the decimal is in your quotient. So now 5 divided by 4. 5 divided by 4, well, I know that 4 can go into 5 at least one time, leaving me with the multiplication step of 1 times 4 is 4. Now I subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Do I have anything to bring down? No, but I cannot leave a remainder of 1, so I place a 0 under my house with my dividend. I bring down that 0. Well, first let me ask you this. Sorry, let me go back. Before I place that 0, I need to say to myself, 1 cannot be divided by 4. Okay, so that's why I place my 0 there. But if I bring down my 0, I have 10 divided by 4. How many times can 10 go into 4? Well, I know 4 times 2 is 8, so I'm going to say 2 times. Now I'm at the multiply step. 2 times 4 is 8. Now I'm at subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. Well, I know that 2 cannot be divided by 4, so I place another 0 under my house with my dividend. Then I bring down my 0. 20 divided by 4, well, that can occur 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20. Now I'm at multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. Now I'm at subtract. 20 minus 20 is 0. So I can stop at this point. There's no need to place another 0 and bring it down. But when you do have decimals, you simply can't put a remainder of whatever you get. You have to continue to divide out until you get to a remainder of 0. So you have the most accurate quotient you could possibly have. So I have 4 5/10 divided by 4 equals, Q is for quotient, a quotient of 1 125 thousandths. How can I check my answer? Well, I can recognize that division is the opposite of multiplication, so I could take my quotient of 1 125 thousandths, multiply by 4, and see if I get my quotient back. So let's see, 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 8, or 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and 4 times 1 is 4. Again, remembering the rules with multiplying with decimals, you multiply as normal. You do not have to line up your decimals. You just have to make sure the longest number is on top to make it easier for yourself. And the key here is recognizing I have 1, 2, 3 digits behind my decimal. None here, so that means my answer needs to have 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal. And then I place my decimal point. So my answer, or my quotient of 1 in 125 thousandths, is correct because I get my quotient back of 4.5.